Welcome to the England Rugby Pod. Thanks for downloading episode 112. Following two cracking wins, the boys have a well-earned break. What do Wales need to do to stop the English onslaught? You're listening to the England Rugby Pod, the rugby podcast that believes England will win the World Cup in 2019. Hey guys, welcome back on a midweek episode. Obviously, because it's a midweek break in the Six Nations, we're just going to spread this out. So you'll get this one today. We'll bring you another episode kind of early next week, and that'll lead us in nicely for the big game a week on Saturday, which we will talk more about later. But before that, I'm of course joined as always by Dan. Hi, mate.
Hi, mate. I would, being the Thursday the 14th of February, I would wish you a happy Valentine's Day, but unfortunately your wife told me, your wife told me if I sent you any more cards, she would give me a beating similar to what the English did to the French, and no one wants that, so I'll avoid that.
No one wants that. I'm glad you prepared a little one-liner. It was,
thanks, mate.
It was really funny.
Anyway.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a... Ordinarily, we'd want to talk about the French game, and we will talk about it a little bit, but there's probably not a huge amount to discuss. Obviously, we want to talk about Wales, but I'm conscious that we've got an episode coming up early next week where the focus is going to be on that. So today, I think, is more about just sort of talking about where England are following the first two, their kind of opening couple of games. We'll talk a little bit about... There's a few injury issues that we can discuss the impact that's going to have, and a few decisions that have been made in camp, and we can just talk about what we think that might what we think that might mean. But before all of that, you recently paid a little visit to ESPN HQ. Why don't you talk to us about that?
Oh, it was really good actually. Doing a rugby podcast. It was about the sort of sporting rivalries and obviously England-Wales. And it was really interesting. They've got just sitting in their studio made us probably put in perspective a bit more where our podcast is compared to professionals. And they had very, very good equipment for argument's sake.
Who needs good equipment when you got, a mobile phone, some dodgy reception, a bit of Skype.
Yeah, exactly. But it was a really good podcast. I really enjoyed it actually. The chap Jed, I believe, from Wales, who's got his own podcast, which I will obviously let know. He's a really nice guy, very knowledgeable about rugby. The presenters. So one of the presenters, a guy Alex and Jamie Lang from Made in Chelsea.
Yep.
So you know me well, and for the listeners who don't know, I detest reality TV. I just can't stand it.
No one would ever have thought it, Dan.
I know, it's weird. I had nothing against the guy, personally at all, but I met him. I was really surprised. He's, firstly, very knowledgeable about his rugby. It's great. Secondly, really nice guy, really charming, engaging guy. So it was really good fun. I enjoyed it, as was Alex as well there. It's a good podcast, well worth listening to. We will send out the link.
Head in the Game, I believe it's called.
Head in the Game, that's right. We will. The link, they are sending us the link to the episode. It's not out till next Monday, but we will send it out. But it was a really interesting experience, and it was good to sort of interact with other people who are doing, other podcasts. Theirs is a more general sports podcast as a whole. And we have a Welsh chat. His one's very much Welsh focused, but still, a great podcast. And we will obviously get all this information online, so anyone who listens can see. But no, it was a good experience, mate. I'm glad to have done it.
Good. You represented us well.
Thank you, sir.
No, that was a question.
I believe. Oh, did I? You'll have to find out on Monday.
We will have to find out on Monday. If it's terrible, we'll have lost the link and it won't be broken, and unfortunately we won't be able to share it.
Yeah.
So what was the? I mean, obviously Jamie Lang, he's English, I think.
Yes.
So was he leaning towards your way of thinking, or was there any kind of did you and the Welsh guy they had in kind of agree on most of what was being said? Like how did it get feisty?
No. It was interesting. It was very much. I was 100% in the English corner. He was 100% in the Welsh corner. Neither of us was backing down on that, but it was done very respectfully. We were also there was a mention of the Lions, and both of us, I think, said the same thing. The Lions are different. The Lions are the Lions. You don't care what country they're from as long as the Lions win.
I guess that depends on whether Warren Gatland is in charge and picking Welsh players that perhaps aren't as strong as their English, Scottish, or Irish counterparts.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we didn't go into huge debt, but I think we both agreed.
So what you're trying to tell me is that there's a very good chance that they contact us and say we decided to go down a different route and we won't be airing this episode because it was really boring.
No, I think 100% not, mate. I think my usual dulcet tones and general charisma will carry it through.
Your usual dull tones, was that? I missed it. Cracked up a little bit. It's this reception, it's this quality equipment we're using.
Exactly, but I think your version is probably something that resonates more with most of our listeners.
Okay, well, yeah, guys. As Dan says, we'll share links to all of that. We're not overly precious about our sharing of other podcast links. Hopefully, they'll reciprocate. We'll see. We'll probably get more out of that. But yeah, you can check them out on Monday and find out what Dan had to say for himself and how he represented the England Rugby Pod. Fine. As we said, we will talk Wales later on, and obviously a lot of that will be next week. But before we do that, let's take a little look back at these first couple of games, and just, I guess, after the first win in Dublin, everyone was very quick to say, "Oh, don't count your chickens." One great win doesn't suddenly make you a great team, and all this sort of stuff. It needs to be backed up. So England went to France and they backed it up.
They 100% did back it up. Yeah.
Have they done enough? Obviously, 2 games you could still argue that. You could argue it all the way to the World Cup, but at what point do you start saying, if you're the rest of the world, because obviously we know where we sit in this camp, at what point do you start saying, shit, we need to be careful here?
I think anyone who's not looking at this England team and saying that now is being naive. Now, what we need to be, despite our rose-tinted glasses, we need to have a level of fair here. So when England were losing a few in a row, we were saying this does not make us a bad team. And these 2 good wins, doesn't make us a great team, but the quality of performances, the immense power and precision of our forwards especially, and the sort of flair and excitement of our backs means that even 2 good performances, you don't have that without real quality and real talent. So people do need to take note.
I think for me, the thing that kind of really stands out about these 2 wins is how very different they were, and yet they still were both kind of top quality. The game plan that they executed was very different between the Ireland game and the France game. And I think that's massively important because in a World Cup year, building towards trying to win a World Cup, to be able to go out and play 2 very different styles of rugby emphatically and win emphatically in both games. Eddie keeps on saying in the media, we're putting pressure on our oppositions in such a way that it's creating opportunities elsewhere, and whether that's kicking deep, and forcing the back 3 to defend in a certain way that creates gaps on the outsides or through the midfield, whether that's the forwards kind of power and the sort of the strength in their defence. It just strikes me as a very together side that kind of seems to know exactly what it's doing, and it can execute its game plan accordingly, and it can change its game. In the past, it's very easy to look at teams and say, "Oh, well, they play a certain way and they play a certain way," and it seems like England have shown in just these first 2 games that they have the ability to say, "Right, who are we playing? What's the best game plan to play that team? Let's go and execute that game plan," and then they go and do it. And that, I think, is the thing for me that's so exciting about this team right now. Is that ability to just change the way that they play, in order to beat the team in front of them.
Mate, I completely agree. So a lot of people have said France were very poor, and they were. But France were very poor against Wales as well. Maybe not in the first half as such, but the reason France were very poor is because we massively exposed their weaknesses.
Yeah.
And like you say, we adapted to the game plan. These last two performances, I think, to me, have been absolutely outstanding. And yes, there's other factors involved, but the kicking, the understanding the French back three, and yes, not every back three. It wasn't a great back three, or they certainly didn't play well that day, and not every back three will be that weak. But
I think this is the key. This is the point Eddie was making.
Yeah.
Is that let's take Wales for example. In 10 days' time, if they say right, well we've got the back three to deal with that kicking pressure, and so they have a game plan to defend against that. That is them playing into our hands. That's them adjusting their game plan to defend us rather than coming up with their own game plan to attack us.
I believe I've thought that before, Eddie, didn't I?
Possibly.
Possibly not.
Possibly not. But and I think his point was that even if they do that, and teams they'll adapt. They'll see the way that in the same way that for years, teams around the world have done it by looking at New Zealand. How do they play? How do we adapt to that? How do we play more like them? If teams start to defend that kicking game that England have seem to have now, as Eddie says, it's going to create spaces elsewhere. You've only got 15 men on the pitch. They can only cover so much space. If you can force them to cover deep, then there's less of them in the line for a rush defence, for example.
Yeah.
And that exposes opportunities in the middle where you've got your Manus and your Henry Slades. So it's going to be very interesting to see what this third game. We've seen two very different styles. Game number 3, do they have another style? Is there a third option?
Yeah, and I think the key thing for me in these last two games has been the power of our forwards. Our forwards, and there's probably less nuances and things in winning the upfront battle. Our forwards have been absolutely outstanding in the last two games, but it's not just outstanding from the sort of attack perspective. I mean, our defence has been insane. Someone like a Mark Wilson, who I'd say unsung hero, but I think people are recognising him now. That guy, his work rate is absolutely insane. Mako's work rate has been brilliant. Everyone has been great.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, this is a good point at which to say, how big a loss is Mako? Because, of course, he's now out for the rest of the Six Nations. We lost Maro Itoje the week before, and we said it's obviously a big loss. It would be to anybody, but we're fortunate enough to have the awesome foursome, and therefore cover is there in abundance. Is that the case for Mako? He's obviously got Moon and Genge as cover.
Moon, yeah. So I think Mako is a bigger loss than Maro Itoje for two reasons. Firstly, I think Mako at the moment is currently our most on form forward. And secondly, and this is no disrespect to the other two, in the second row, I think our cover is so strong. Up front, yes, Genge and Moon, great players, and I'm not worried about them at all. But I think Mako is still further ahead of them than perhaps Itoje is of Laundry or Laws, for argument's sake. So that's why I think it's a bigger loss. But I don't think in any way is it even close to being a crippling loss.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that this is England. This is England's first real test of is the strength, is the depth as strong as we think, and I think it is, and I think this will prove it. Mako's not going anywhere as soon as he's fit, and it's about deciding which of these two guys is the permanent replacement, because they've both had a crack in the first two games coming off the bench, and now one of them is going to need to start, and that's going to be very telling. Which way Eddie goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Who do you think?
I think he might go Moon, just because I think he might say that Ellis Genge is a bit more of a wild card. And I'm not sure he'll want to play a wild card against Wales in Cardiff.
fair point.
Moon had a very strong autumn.
Moon had a great autumn.
So yeah, for that reason, I think right now the pecking order is Mako, Moon, Genge in that order.
Okay.
But I think it's there for Ellis Genge to kind of take it. He will obviously play. He'll get his opportunity. Both of them are going to be involved. He'll get his chance, and we know he's a great player, and he's definitely a future of in this sport for England. So it'll be very interesting to see if he does have an impact. He had his chance in Dublin, I think it was.
Yeah.
But we were all on such a high from the way that the game was going. I don't even really notice any of the subs come on. Sorry, the finishers.
The finishers,
or the game changers, as they're being referred to at Harlequins.
I don't understand the need to change, like to reword what they're they're called.
So Eddie obviously introduced this idea, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going into all sports. I saw something the other day. I think it was American football. They've
always had that. They've always had that.
Finishers as opposed to subs.
No, but they've got special teams in America. Like American football, you don't need subs.
Well, maybe it wasn't American. Maybe it wasn't American football. Maybe it was something else. But it was another sport that was calling its bench the finishers. And people were saying, where's this name come from? And obviously Eddie was getting credit, which was cool.
Which I think is fair enough. I personally never heard it before, Eddie.
No, I haven't. But I think it's good. I think it's right. Lots of people saying it's a PC thing. I don't think that's the case at all. I think he's recognising that the game has moved on and it's a 23-man game. Whether or not people want it to be or not, whether you've got a Jeremy Guscott sitting there saying that it should be your best 15 and then your next best 8 or whatever. I don't think that's how it should be. I think it should. It is a 23-man game. And actually, it's tactical who you put in there. You want the guys that are going to be strong for the last 20 minutes and offer you an edge.
It's interesting you say that because I used to be more along the line, probably the Guscott line, that you play your best 15. But actually, I'm now agreeing with you more because it has become such a 23 that I don't think that, even if one player is considered slightly better or slightly more informed, I don't think it matters if he's put on as a finisher because you think the impact he'll have as that is greater. I think Eddie's very good at that. Well, Jack Noel, Chris Ashton.
Exactly. I think that was a tactical decision. And actually, I think if you told Eddie he had to pick either Jack Noel or Chris Ashton, he would go Noel. Just generally. If he had to put them in order, I think he would put Noel above Ashton. But I think for the France game, he had a game plan, whether that was a psychological thing that we talked about last week or something else. The game plan revolved around having Jack Noel there at the end. And that's not even... I'm not even necessarily sure that I would say that it was the right call, because I felt that Ashton actually was probably... Just from what I saw, one of the weaker players in the side. Whether that's just unlucky, I know he set up one of the tries with a little kick through, but I felt like he was just not quite. I don't know. Maybe he just didn't feel quite as tuned in as some of the rest of the team. Watching him at the moment, it feels very much like they're all kind of tuned into one another. He felt slightly more on the outside, to me.
Yeah, I do slightly understand what you're saying. I don't think in any ways he had a bad game, and I'd be amazed if the back three are not, or the back four, including the sub, are not Daly, May, Ashton, and Noel again. If I'm honest,
it could well be, but it wouldn't. Equally, it wouldn't surprise me if Cognasiga gets a call up, and if he does, I think it'll be for Ashton.
Yes, I'll agree with that.
Speaking of that, so it's been announced. Obviously, we've talked about Mako being out, but it's been announced that 4 players, I think it is, have been sent back to their clubs this weekend.
Yep.
So that's Dan Cole. Trying to pull it up as we speak because this is how efficient we are on this podcast.
Cole, Cognasiga, Robson, and
is there one other?
It's Cole Cognasiga
and Mike Brown.
And Mike Brown, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I wanted to talk about this. So Dan Cole, so let's start with Dan Robson actually. So Dan Robson, he's going to be involved still because he hasn't
He's
called
going
up
to be
another
involved
scrum
at
half.
game time.
Is this because Eddie's going, shit, I've only given him 10 minutes so far in the Six Nations, and I don't want him. I don't want him to be completely kind of, 3 weeks, 4 weeks potentially without having played a competitive game of rugby, bar 10 minutes at the end of the French game when it was all but over.
I think that's almost definitely that. I think so. You're right. Robson, barring injury, will be involved. I think my personal thoughts are the thinking behind this is Ben Youngs is going to start. Ben Youngs will be on the pitch whilst he's needed on the pitch. If it's a close game, he may well do the full 80 minutes.
Yeah.
So let's keep Dan Robson sharp in case we need to change it at 9. So let's keep Dan Robson sharp. So yeah, I think what you said is the right reason why Dan Robson's there.
So I think that's an obvious one. If you then look at the other three, so you've got Dan Cole. Now the options there are obviously Carl Sinclair starting, and then you've got Dan Cole or Harry Williams. Right, they're the three. Dan Cole's been sent back to his club. Do we think that's because, in his case, is that because actually Eddie's thinking, you're my third choice and I probably don't need you?
I think so.
Mike Brown got to be the same because we've already decided
Dan Cole and Mike Brown have been sent back because they are not likely to be involved in the Wales match day squad.
And so that just leaves us with Joe Cokanasiga, and this is where I'm just given how he looked in the autumn, and the difference that and we know that Eddie likes a good big and over a good little one.
Yeah,
I feel like he still wants to see him.
I feel like he wants to see him, and I feel Joe Cokanasiga will be involved in the Six Nations. I feel that. At the moment, I don't know. This is the one where I really don't know.
Let's talk about how we feel. We're saying feel a lot. How do you feel?
I feel fine. I feel good. My thoughts are that Ashton is still ahead of Cokanasiga just at the moment, and I still think that Cokanasiga's been sent back because he probably won't be involved.
That's interesting.
But that one, I'm less committed to.
Yeah, see, I've got a feeling that he sent him back like he has with Dan Robson because he hasn't had game time because obviously he was injured and now he's not injured anymore and there's a week off. So he sent him back to go and play a match, and assuming that all goes well, I'm thinking of having you on the bench against Wales to offer something different.
Maybe.
Because he does offer something different. There's no question. And if you can kind of go Farrell, Manu, Slade, Cokanasiga, you kind of got little and big and little and big, and I don't know. There's something interesting about that, especially with Farrell and at the moment the vision that he has and his ability to just pick the exact right thing to do for the moment, whether that's the kick through or the long pass or whatever it might be. And we give him so many options because rather than just having Manu as the physical threat in the back line, he can pick between sending it wide and letting Cokanasiga do that, or Cokanasiga coming on his inside, or there's just lots of options. I don't know. I feel like that might be the next thing, just in terms of keeping oppositions guessing. You don't want Wales going, oh look, they did this against Dublin, they did this against France. We've got all options covered. No, actually, there's another option, at least as far as the back line is concerned. So yeah, I don't know.
Would you be disappointed either way?
I'd quite like to see Cokanasiga on the bench, but no, I'm not gonna look at Ashton as on the bench and go, or even Ashton starting with Noel on the bench and go, oh, this is a disaster.
Yeah.
So,
or even a weak link. I don't think Ashton will ever be a weak link. I think Ashton's brilliant.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see which way he goes. But yeah, I think definitely two of those four are being sent home because they're not needed, and I think. Well, we know Dan Robson obviously it's almost guaranteed that the reason he's going is just to get game time because he hasn't called up an alternative replacement 9.
Of course.
And yeah, it's like interesting, Daniel.
I'd ask you if Danny Kerr had been on the bench instead of Dan Robson, do you think he would have got more game time than Robson?
Maybe just because he's he's got more experience of coming on in big games. And maybe Eddie was just thinking, although to be honest with you, that it doesn't make any sense to me at all in that French game, given the scoreline.
I was surprised.
I
was surprised
at the
that
very
he wasn't
least,
used earlier.
I'd have thought he'd have had 20 minutes, if not more. As we said at half time, I think, this game's won. Bonus points in the bag. The game's won. Why not rest some big players?
Yeah, and maybe if there was a game the next weekend, maybe there would have been more of a rest for Young. I'm surprised, but in no way am I using the criticism against Eddie, because I think Eddie and the coach staff have been spot on so far.
But that's because they listen to us, Dan.
It must be. I can't think of any other reason. I can't imagine there'd be a reason such as they're all brilliant rugby tacticians, have got great experience. No. They must just be listening to
the England
our full podcast.
Of course. Every minute of every episode. That's why they That's why they now finally have such an in-depth knowledge of that team.
Exactly. I think they stopped listening to us for a little while
during the Lions. During the Lions.
Sort of last year. Well, I was thinking more last year when we went on that losing streak.
Oh, yeah, they wanted to try out their own thing. They thought, okay, we've got some ideas from these guys, but come on, we can do this ourselves. They tried it. Yeah. It didn't work. 5 losses on the bounce. They came back and were like, nah, these are the guys that are making this happen. And they started listening again, and look what's happened. And like we told everyone, we told everyone it was going to happen. We told them we'd turn this around. Anyway, let's take our heads out of the clouds for a moment. And let's... So looking at Wales, there's been a lot of. I mean, I think it's brilliant mind games from Eddie personally, but I don't know if you saw him in his post-match interview when he came out and said, obviously we are playing Wales's greatest ever side.
So, I of course I think that's mind games. I think. The reason he can say that is because if you look at their winning streak, there's a strong argument to say, well, that's the greatest they've ever won. So he can say that.
I think it's been said. I think possibly even Warren Gatland has said it because for that reason. Maybe a flippant sort of passing comment. Look at the results. We've equalled the record of the greatest ever side, something like that. And then Eddie's jumped on it and gone, I'll have that. That's the perfect soundbite. Because you throw that out there and there's not a lot, it's like, what can you say? We know he's taking the piss. The whole of Wales knows he's taking the piss. But you can't really call him on it because what he's said is that you're the greatest. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like there's something quite clever about it. It's almost less petty than usual.
I think it is. I think the reality is, does anyone truly believe that? Don't get me wrong, Wales have got a very good side. They've got good players. Are they at the level of the teams they had in the 70s, for example, the likes of the JPR Williams, JJ Williams, Phil Bennett?
Well, the team that set this record, it was back in like 1906 or something. And they got 11 straight wins over the course of 2 years, during which time they won 2 Grand Slams.
Yeah.
Wales have done it in 18 months? Not even quite 18 months. Now I don't know. Maybe less than that. Maybe a year. I don't know whether. I don't know. I haven't actually looked back far enough to see what the teams were they were playing. And also, let's not forget, it's all well and good comparing like for like. It's a different game, and they're 2 totally different sides. So they could be different. They could be different nations. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you can't compare the 2. But, you look at Wales's results, and I did a quick comparison with England's kind of first 11 games under Eddie Jones, because they obviously had their win streak. So I looked at their first 11 games. In England's first 11 games, they beat everyone who was, every relevant team in the top flight, bar New Zealand, who they didn't play. Wales, and admittedly they also didn't play them all, beat France, South Africa, Scotland, and Australia.
Which is still good. Let's not take that away from them. That's still good. But Wales, like you say, Wales haven't beaten New Zealand, Ireland, or England. in
No,
that, and
they haven't beaten
they are
Scotland.
top
They
three
haven't
teams in the
beaten
world.
Scotland in Edinburgh, who we know are
No,
a different beast.
And we must say they are a different beast. And we must say with the New Zealand, Ireland, England thing, they haven't had a chance to do that, so we can't blame Wales for that.
Absolutely. You can only play the team in front of you, of course.
Yeah.
One of those games. I mean, a prime example is that that South Africa game that was played out in the States, of course, which was a bit of a joke game, really, wasn't it? I think both sides.
It was, but both ways. But then equally, they beat South Africa in the autumn, so they have beaten South Africa. They have beaten the full South African team, and that South African team in the autumn, is a good team, a very good team. And against Australia, although Australia aren't necessarily brilliant at the moment, Australia do seem to hold some form of voodoo over Wales, and Wales have overcome that and beaten them. So
have they opened up the floodgates for that? I mean, it's not quite the 3 in a row that we had in Australia in our opening 11 matches, but baby steps. England have done 18. Wales are trying to get number 12 when they take on England.
Nice,
and I think a little round of applause for them. It's a good effort. It's just I'm just sorry that it has to come to an end, and in Cardiff of all places.
I am sorry, but they will end that losing streak in Cardiff. So actually, this is a good point. So here's my thoughts. I don't know if you're different. So the first 2 games that Wales played, fair enough, they've won them both. I think they've been a poor team, but I don't think any of that matters. I don't think the win streak matters. I don't think anything matters when it comes to England, Wales, and Cardiff. I think it's a completely new game, completely different. The motivations are slightly different. The play will be different.
Well, hang on. So that's all well and good, and I don't disagree with you. But you've said they were a poor team in their opening 2 games.
Yes.
They were a good team that played badly, or they were a poor team? Because there's quite a big difference.
Poor performance team, a good team that played badly.
I mean, are they? We've seen 2 different sides. There was 10 changes for the second game.
Yeah, I think Wales as a whole are a good team. I think their top team is a good team. I think they've got good players. I think they've got actually fairly good strength and depth.
I don't know. I think they're going to come unstuck. I think all the hype, and I think England are going to do what England have been doing for the last 2 games.
They're unstuck because they're against England, but I don't think that makes them a poor team. I just don't think they're as good as England.
What I'm saying is, right now, I think England will. I think England are going to win. I think England are going to win with a bonus point again. And I think it's going to be another one of these games where England just come out so quickly and so aggressively, and Wales aren't going to have an answer. Even though it's in Cardiff. I don't know what I did this. I mean, I'm sure most people. In fact, this is probably quite a good time to read out. It's not a new review, although it's a new review, but it's from Wade. He's back. Fortunately, we have retained our 5 stars, which is always nice. And he's warning us of a Welsh backlash. He says, "Gents, good coverage. The excitement is rising, and the rose-tinted specks are getting thicker by the day. Zippy is so excitable that I fear he may spontaneously combust in a forthcoming live pod. A note of caution: Wales in Cardiff is never anything else than a very tough proposition. I've seen too many England teams find it the graveyard of the Red Rose ambition. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. My prediction is that the England back 3 will be bombed by Dan Biggar under the high ball. Also, rather than the limp France back 3, George North, Liam Williams, etc. will be a different challenge when it comes to regathering the high ball. The Welsh crowd will be baying for arrogant English blood if they sense weakness. Gatland will have a very detailed plan, and he is the best coach in the world, in my opinion. That will cause debate. Lol. We will see, but it will be close. England are playing intelligent, athletic, and heads-up rugby, and long may it continue. No side in the world will fancy playing them at the moment. Let's hope with good reason. Best, WD."
So, WD or WA?
He calls himself W. No, it's WD. Well, Wade Atford's obviously the kind of the nickname he's given himself, but his name's presumably Wade, something beginning with D.
Oh, right. Okay, so there's a couple of things. Firstly, I think what he said is actually very good, in my opinion, very good analysis of what's going on. One thing, I'm going to take a slight guess here, and this is in no way meant to criticism way, because like I said last week, I like him. I'm guessing he works within something like management consulting, risk consultancy. He's very risk adverse. He seems very level headed, doesn't want to get ahead of it, which is not, I'm not saying a bad thing, because I'm basically the complete opposite. Wales. Jesus Christ, I need to hurt myself. England play well, once, and I'm like, England the best team ever. Whereas Wade is a lot more level headed with it. But, and I think what he says is very true, I think Wales, and I completely agree with his point, Wales are a different prospect. It has been the graveyard of many sort of England team there, going there with great ambition. I don't see it this week. I am 100% believing England will be. I'm not convinced about the bonus point like you are, but
England have won their last 2 matches against Wales in Cardiff.
Yes, but there's also been times in Cardiff where we've fallen down fairly heavily.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, there have been, but we're talking about pre-Eddie Jones. We're talking about a different England team.
We are. So
I can't see it. I can't see it.
I can't see it either. But I think form goes out the window when Wales play England in Cardiff. I mean, Wales. This is the game where I think the Welsh will put everything into it, and they will.
I have no doubt that they will absolutely want to win, and they'll want to win it more than they want to win any of their other games. I'm just not sure that is enough to suddenly make players that are not performing particularly well start performing well. Like it doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't all just come together simply because the players go, "Oh, we want to win this." If it did, that would just send the message that, well, you didn't really want to win the other games. I know that they won them, so people will listen to this and say they're unbeaten.
And they are. But we need to respect that.
But 2 very poor performances. So on a performance level, you don't just suddenly play well, unless you've intentionally gone out to play badly in the previous 2. Like you see gradual improvements, and I'm not sure that over the course of a few months between a summer tour and an autumn international series, for example, sure, there's been plenty of opportunity to improve. Over the course of 2 weeks between matches, I'm not sure that's enough time to completely change the way you play.
So here's my thinking on it. I think Wales will make England earn everything. They will put their full body on the line. They will put every passion into it. Now, here's the thing. If England play how they have been playing in the first 2 games, any level of passion and want to win, I don't think will be enough. But if England don't perform like that, if England have a bad day at the office, I think Wales will, have got a chance of beating them because of the level of passion and will. But that's where I think it's slightly different. But I don't think that will be enough to beat an England team on form, performing how they have done.
Interestingly, slight change of tact. If England were to lose against Wales, but still manage to score 4 tries and lose by less than 7, so they get their 2 bonus points, and if they keep Wales from getting any bonus points themselves, England could be. I know it wouldn't affect the end result if Wales went on to do the Grand Slam, because there's obviously 3 bonus points for winning the Grand Slam. But England would be ahead of them on the table despite losing.
That takes a lot though, because you're saying we need to get a 4 try bonus point.
So let's say we scored. Four converted tries and no penalties, and they scored 3 converted tries and a couple of penalties. They could potentially win. Possible. I know 30-28 or something. And we'd each they would take 4 points from the game, we would take 2 points from the game, and we'd be on level points, except we'd have about a 30 points difference over them. So we'd actually be top of the table. I know that they get that's why the Six Nations has the 3 bonus points for winning a Grand Slam, because that's how you ensure that can't happen. You can't have a team that's unbeaten not win.
Yeah, I mean, I would not like to be top of the table on that scenario.
No, I wouldn't, and it's also not going to happen because England are going to win with a bonus point.
Of course.
And actually, the table is going to look like England are going to be top of the table with 15 points. Ireland are going to be second with 9 points. Wales third on 8. France are going to beat Scotland. And so Scotland and France are going to be on 5 points each. And Italy, unfortunately, the whipping boys against Ireland on Sunday, are going to remain on 0.
Yeah, Italy, Ireland is a tough game for Italy.
That's what the table looks like at the end of round 3. And it has England 6 points clear at the top, which is huge because, of course, that's more than a bonus point win.
Yeah, and then we have both Scotland and Italy at Twickenham.
Yeah, if that happens, England have won the Six Nations.
I think if England beat Wales, we can be very close to celebrating the Six Nations win. Bearing in mind our points difference to date, our next two games.
The likelihood of a bonus point win against Italy.
Yes.
In all honesty, I don't know, likelihood's probably the wrong word, but there's a very good chance of a bonus point win against Scotland, given that it's at Twickenham. England could conceivably, if they can get a bonus point win against Wales, which is a big ask, I appreciate that. But if they could do it, they could, not conceivably, because of course it's conceivably possible, but it wouldn't be unrealistic to think that England would be and should be targeting not only a Grand Slam, but a bonus point in every game too, which presumably is a record that's never been done.
Not that I think the bonus point system's only been in for a couple of years or something, but
well, there you
go. I see what you're saying. I personally don't think we'll get a bonus point win against Wales and Cardiff. I think we'll win, and I think we'll.
Yeah, but win. you thought that about England against France.
I did,
and you were wrong.
I was wrong, and yeah.
So on that basis alone, I'm going with England by 14 and a bonus point.
So I think England will win by. Do you know what? On the pod on Monday when I was in the ESPN one, I think I said, I can't remember what I said. I think I might have even said England by 15 or something. Oh, I might have got carried away.
Good.
I can't remember exactly.
With the England Rugby Pod, the rugby podcast that believes England are going to win the World Cup in 2019. So we are supposed to be overly optimistic.
Yes, we are. And we are.
And right now, they're backing it up.
They are backing it up,
so
and deservedly.
If you can't blow smoke up their asses now, when can you?
Good, when we win the World Cup.
And we will.
We will. We certainly will.
Right.
It's a good game. It's a good game. Like I say though, I truly believe sort of to date form and all that side is actually not something that is going to come into this match too much, because Wales and Cardiff against England in the Six Nations, they will throw everything at England.
Let me leave you then with one thing. England in Dublin against Ireland.
Yeah.
Right?
No. It's a good point. I see where you're coming. I see where you're coming. It's a good point.
Before this Six Nations, that's a bigger, tougher fixture than Wales in Cardiff.
Of course.
And not only did they win, but they took a bonus point. So I think England are going in with huge confidence, rightly so. I think Wales are going in with a dip in form, and I just can't see them. Stopping this England assault that is going on at the moment. So we will have one more chance to change our minds when we do next week's episode, when we're going to look a bit more at the actual team that we're likely to see, and we'll talk more about tactics, and no doubt there'll be some new stuff in the media, because England against Wales, Eddie Jones against Warren Catlin, there's always plenty to talk about. There'll no doubt be something that gets Twitter buzzing. But I think for now I'm going to leave you just with exactly that, and so guys, thank you for joining us again. We really appreciate you sticking with us throughout all of this. Hopefully you're enjoying the Six Nations. Hopefully you're enjoying our coverage of the Six Nations. We're certainly enjoying these live episodes, so I hope you guys are too. Do spread the word. Rate us and review us if you haven't already done so. We have got, I think there's 1,000 of you downloading this every week at the moment, which is amazing. But yeah, only 60 odd reviews, so we'd really appreciate if you could just take the 5 minutes, crack on over to iTunes and drop us a review. And it gives us the opportunity to read them out and find out what you guys think. Because if 1,000 of you listen every week, we must be doing something right. Get in touch with us as well if you've got anything you want to ask us or anything you want to tell us on email. It's englandrugbypod@gmail.com or Twitter and Facebook @EnglandRugbyPod. At England Rugby Pod even, and yeah, we'll keep you informed about Dan's little jaunt to ESPN HQ, and yeah, if you haven't or if you're not already following us on Twitter, we're constantly putting stuff out there. So check us out, follow us, and yeah, we will catch you guys next week in the build up to what it's going to be another huge game.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge game. Guys, enjoy your week off from the Six Nations. I know it's painful because we all want to see it, but go back to your rugby clubs, play a game if you've been avoiding that so you can watch Six Nations. We'll next week, obviously, like Anna says, be back, and it'll be, great in the build up to the Wales game.
Thanks business very much. As usual.
Absolutely.